Have you ever felt like your to-do list is playing an evil game of whack-a-mole? Just when you think that you've got things all under control, bam, another request pops up. Can you take on this extra project? Hey, do you want to join this meeting? Hey, let's catch up for coffee. And before you know it, your schedule is overflowing. Your brain is fried, and your goals, they're sitting in the corner collecting dust, right? By the end of this video, you are going to know why saying no might be the biggest power move for your growth, and more importantly, you will have a science-backed strategy on how to say no without feeling guilty to better align with your priorities. Hi, my name is Jennifer. I've been a leader in the medtech corporate sector for well over 20 years, and I serve as a high conflict expert coach and consultant for high achievers, visionary entrepreneurs, and leaders just like you who are in high stakes environments. I help ambitious professionals and businesses to turn conflict into competitive advantage, to master high stakes leadership, and to drive sustainable success through systems-driven discipline. If that sounds like something that you need, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell, where I'm dropping game-changing, science-backed strategies right here that you're not going to want to miss. So let's break this down. Why saying no is unlocking your full potential. It turns out that high achievers, they don't just focus on what to say yes to. They're obsessively selective about what they don't do. You heard that right. It's not always about saying yes. It's about what is getting in the way of your goals. So creating goals and tackling your mission, it doesn't mean necessarily that you're adding things on. Success, it comes from focusing on your priorities, which means it's finding the things that you should eliminate to make room for focusing on the things that really matter to you. And science backs this up. A study from the University of California found that people who struggle to say no, they experience higher stress, higher burnout, and higher decision fatigue. And another study from Harvard Business Review, they reported that successful leaders say no to 90% of opportunities. You heard that right, 90%, so they can go all in on the right ones. And even Warren Buffett swears by it. The difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything. So that's a lesson learned, right? Sometimes we're putting our goals together for the year or maybe the quarter, or something new comes on our plate and we're just thinking, how are we going to add this on to everything we need to do? Maybe it's time to take a look at all the things we're wasting our time on that are not moving the needle for us. So in other words, your growth, it depends on what you don't do. And there's a hidden cost of saying yes too often. I think we all feel it, especially if you're in that state of overwhelm. We sometimes say yes to way too many things. But every time you say yes to something that doesn't align with your goals and your priorities, you're actually saying no to something that does. Listen to that. I'm going to repeat it because I think it's very important. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't align with your goals, you're actually saying no to yourself, to something that does. So think about it that way. When you think about it, saying yes to an unnecessary meeting, that's an hour lost for doing deep work, right? If you agreed to help with a task that's not yours, that's energy drained from your priorities. And if you've accepted an invitation out of guilt, that friend that you don't want to go to their event, but you just love them so much and you just feel guilty if you don't go, that's time that's taken away from recharging you, because you're actually burning your battery even down lower, because you're in a situation that you really don't want to be in. So you're miserable in your own head, even if you're not to others. And here's the real kicker. Overcommitting, it doesn't just drain your time. it lowers your performance because your focus gets scattered all over the place in a million directions, doesn't it? And it starts to become focus on everyone else's tasks, everyone else's dreams, things that they need to do. And it has nothing to do with your own, and you're just not moving forward. So how should you say no without feeling guilty? So there is a way to do this without just sounding like a jerk or being just so blatant, direct that the other person feels like, wow, that negative side of things. I get it. Saying no can feel so awkward, or sometimes worse, it can feel selfish, especially if you're very empathetic and you're, really always a very helpful person. Sometimes you feel like it's selfish saying no, right? But it's actually a sign of a strong leader. It's a sign of having strong discipline and strong self-respect. And people will respect you more for saying no than for going along with the crowd and just fitting in, right? So here's how to do it without burning any bridges. There's what I call the direct no. And this is where you can say, I appreciate the offer, but I have to decline. And you don't even have to get into a long-winded or excuse. Just leave it at that. You don't need to get into it. I know we always feel guilty or feel bad saying no to somebody, and sometimes we just ramble on and it makes us sound worse than it is, but just say, hey, thank you. I appreciate the offer, but I just have to decline at this time. There's also the delayed no. So if you're not sure if you want to do it or not, you could say, you know what, let me check my priorities and I can get back to you. Or let me check my calendar and see what my workload looks like. Because it makes it sound like you definitely want to help them, but you're trying to evaluate if you can fit it in. And that's really what you're doing, right? You're buying yourself time to evaluate if it's something that you want to do or not. And then the third area is the redirect. So you can say, especially if it's something you don't want to do, and maybe there's a colleague or someone on your team that might be a great fit or be interested. So you could say, I can't at this time, but maybe Janie in the corner there that sits in the corner, she might be a great fit for this. So you're still being helpful without overcommitting. And I know this sounds terrible, but you pawning it off to someone else to figure out if they want to help that person or not. So it might be a better fit for Janie, but for you, it's not the right fit for your goals. So what's your growth challenge this week? Next time someone asks you for your time, ask yourself, does this align with my top priorities? Or will this bring me closer to my goals? Or you could say, am I saying yes out of guilt or obligation? And most of the time I find myself, when I'm trying to make a decision, is in that third one. Am I saying yes out of guilt or obligation? And we need to get out of that in our mindset because it's a negative thing, believe it or not. When we bring in all that guilt, it just sits on us, right? And then we start ruminating about it and it's just a bad situation. So if it's not something that's a heck yes, then considering it a hell no. Stop being a people pleaser. Your future self will thank you. So have you struggled with saying no? I think everyone has. If you haven't, then let me know that in the comments too. I would love to hear your thoughts on maybe some tactics that you've used, or maybe you're just a stronger person than the rest of us that can say a hard no and still be respected. But I still struggle with this, so it's something that I work on each and every day, but it is necessary. Protect your time. It is the most important asset that you have. And protect your goals and where you want to go because it's your life, right? So if you found this content valuable, please consider sharing, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you on the next video.